Hey Pickleheads, welcome to the Picklehead Podcast. Today we're going to be talking all about etiquette and all the things that you need to know for pickleball etiquette so that you don't appear to be a jerk on the court. So the very first one that we're going to talk about is just starting out. Spencer hasn't heard about this one, but it's like a bonus one that I just thought of. But it's when people will roll the ball under the net or they'll hit it with their paddle under the net. So coming from tennis, I know that it was super weird. Like when people would, because a lot of nets have holes at the bottom, when people would just like hit you the ball and roll it to you. And I just thought, man, that's straight disrespectful. It was like my initial thought on it. But then I started doing it like 2 months later. And now I don't even think about it. So I'd like to hear your guys' opinion, obviously, if you want to comment on the video wherever you're watching and just let us know what you think about rolling. I mean, I think it should be totally taken out, even though I do it now, just because that's what everybody does. I guess I'm more of a follower, but yeah, I don't even think twice about it. What are your thoughts, Spencer, kind of not coming from so much of a tennis background?
It was still a little bit weird for me when it came about. And yeah, I have thought about this. Kicking the ball also
Or kicking it, yeah.
is another one where it's like, it seems like it's disrespectful, but for those that haven't played tennis, I mean, maybe the other person isn't even trying to do it on purpose. Uh, and maybe they are. Maybe they're trying to get in your head. And so for me, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. I think I'm not a fan of kicking it under, but I guess that's for everybody to decide. If someone's purposely, I think more of an issue for me is if after you win a point, someone tries to purposely get in your head by throwing the ball away from where you're going to serve. So that one, I mean, it's kind of a different subject, kind of not. Like the way they give the ball back to you, maybe they toss it to the opposite side of the court, knowing that you're going to serve in that, or maybe they just slightly roll it over, so you have to walk all the way to the net to go and get it. You know, playing head games. I mean, that stuff I'm definitely against. But how much more effort does it take to pick up the ball and toss it, or to pick up the ball and paddle it back to wherever they're serving? Um, I guess I'm still kind of on the fence, but if I had to lean one way, I would say I'm more for just taking the extra effort to bend over and pick up the ball and hit it back. But like you said, let us know what you guys think. Let us know, and maybe you have a stronger and or better opinion about it. Um, but yeah, that's how we feel about that. Next one, in regards to pickleball etiquette, is calling a foot fault on your opponent in rec play. So this one I know how I feel about it. Um, if it's a blatant foot fault, everyone's gonna know, and people are gonna call themselves on it. But if it's maybe a slight foot fault and you're paying attention to the opponent's foot in rec play, and you're like, I saw your toe touch the line right there. That's actually our point. I'm completely against it. Austin may be in a different category here. Again, like last episode, we haven't discussed this beforehand to see what we're for or against. Um, but I'm one who is against the majority of the time calling a foot fault on the opponent. But what's your opinion?
Yeah, I'm totally for it. I think you should. No, I'm just playing. No, that's like the worst thing that you could possibly do. I mean, even if you blatantly see it, like I've called people on foot faults. I'm like, you just took 5 steps in the kitchen there, but it's not like I'm going to take the point from you. It's just rec play. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you're sitting in the kitchen and hitting volleys from 2 inches from the net, then it's like, okay, yeah, you can't do that. But I'm not going to call on my opponent in rec play, especially. Even in a tournament, I wouldn't call it. There would have to be a ref there for me to call it.
Yeah.
Or the ref would have to call it, because I'm not going to be like, in a tournament, a lot of tournaments don't even have refs. I would err on the side of not saying anything. I wouldn't care.
And everyone knows that guy. There's always that one guy at the courts that like asks to play with you, and then he's calling a foot fault on you.
Mm-hmm.
And you could be a foot away from the kitchen line and he's calling it, and that to me could be super annoying. So whoever that is, you know who you are.
Don't be that guy.
just don't be that guy. And so calling foot faults, for the most part in rec play, I think we're against it. In a tournament, if you're calling your own balls in a tournament, how do you feel about that? Like, so tournament setting, we don't have a ref. Everyone's on the honor code. I want to know your opinion on if you're calling a foot fault on the guy that maybe put his toe on the line.
Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't. I don't think anybody would, even in a tournament. Like, obviously, if someone's sitting in the kitchen, then it's like, I'm going to go grab a ref, because there's going to be someone there that can come at least watch the kitchen. Yeah. If there's not a ref on the court. There's always like refs on call, or that are doing the bigger matches, and you just say, hey, we just need someone. They'll grab some boy to just call foot faults. It's not that hard. They don't have to keep score or anything. But yeah, if it turns into a big problem where literally it's like every shot it feels like they're at the net because their foot's halfway in the kitchen, then there's a big problem there. And there are some people in town, it's so funny, that are known for, during rec play especially, they're known for having their feet in the kitchen the entire time. And they act like they don't notice, but it's like all of a sudden they go into a tournament and they never touch the line once. So it's like, obviously you know that you're doing that, but they like train their brains as soon as they get into a tournament to stop doing it. I don't understand it, but
yeah, just trying to get away with it. Yeah, no, I see that too. And me in a tournament, my opinion, if I don't have a ref present, unless someone's doing it over and over again, I'm not making that foot fault call on them. Same thing goes for line calls, but we'll talk about line calls here in a minute. Next pickleball etiquette point is apologizing for hitting the net. So in tennis, coming from a tennis background, it's a really big deal. You know, you tip your hat, you apologize for hitting the net. But I think the main reason for that in tennis is because typically if the ball hits the net, it's ungettable. Is that a word? By the opponent. Like, they're typically not able to get it off the net. Whereas in pickleball, I would say more than 50% of the time when the ball hits the net, I would say closer to 75% of the time in pickleball, you're able to get the ball after it hits the net. The one time where it's super annoying when the ball hits the net is when someone hits a drive and the ball's coming real fast. You're ready to catch it here, but all of a sudden your block has to be way up here because it took the net. So in that situation, it might be a little bit harder to get. But usually if it just ticks over, you can run up to the net and get it. But should we be apologizing for hitting the net to the opponent? I'm going to let Austin share his opinion first, and then I'll share mine.
So yeah, coming from a tennis background, it's pretty natural to just say sorry. But it's like, I'm not actually sorry that it happened. And if you hit the net, I don't care that it happened to me. I would say it's closer to 50%, like how you were saying before, that it hits the net and the point's automatically over. But it's like, that's out of your control. So I don't understand why that bothers people so much. Mm-hmm. What bothers me is when someone hits the net, right? And then I like whiff the ball because my timing's totally off or something. And then they cheer in excitement or say, come on, like that.
Celebrate, yeah.
That bothers me. But that has to do with etiquette 100%, I would say. It's like, you're just a dingus, in my opinion, if you do something like that. Hit the net, it's like, obviously you didn't try to do that, so you don't deserve to cheer. But obviously you didn't try to hit the net, so I shouldn't be upset that you hit the net at that fact. So I just say sorry, I guess, as habit. But some people get so frustrated when you hit the net, and it's like you meant to do it. It's just like, I think that's a lot that can play a big role when you're playing in a tournament. When someone gets so frustrated that you hit the net, all of a sudden you start like feeling a little bit of stress, like, oh man, it's not that you feel bad, it's just like, this guy's really upset. So you start feeling a little bit of stress, depending on your personality. I know I do. But I've kind of trained myself way more so because I've played in so many tournaments that I'm just like, they can get over it. it doesn't really matter, especially in rec games when someone gets so upset that it hit the net. But yeah, what's your opinion, Spence?
Uh, so I think we're somewhat on the same side of the fence. I do like to say, and you agree with that. I do like to apologize, just because I didn't hit the net on purpose. Like that wasn't. I'm not so skilled that I hit the net and the ball went in the corner. And yeah, at the same time, if you're celebrating after you hit the net and win the point, not cool. Yeah, I disagree with that as well. Like you should not be celebrating because of an accident. If you don't want to apologize, that's up to you. But if you're celebrating the point, um, in my opinion, I disagree with that. So I mean, we're basically on the same page there. But I will typically say sorry or my bad, or even though, like you said, in the back of my mind, I'm not very sorry because I am happy that we won the point. So as not to get in their head.
I guess for me, it's more so that I'm saying sorry because I don't know, because obviously they don't have the same viewpoint as me. I don't know if they have the same viewpoint, because if I was playing against myself, I wouldn't say anything, because like obviously that's out of my control that it hit that. But I guess I say it more so for them. So I should probably stop saying it, because like it's not about the opponent, it's about you. It's you versus you out there. And I think if you start thinking about the opponent and their feelings too much, your level's gonna go down. I don't know if you've really thought about that much, but I think about it when I'm playing, and when I was playing high school tennis, I would think about it all the time, and it was really in my head. But yeah, I think I'm gonna err more on the side of not saying sorry, and it's just like, suck it up, bro. Obviously, I didn't mean to do it, so I'm just gonna focus on myself, try to pull a BJ, a Ben Johns, and just move on.
Yeah, just move on to the next point. Yeah, I guess as far as etiquette goes, I mean, keep this in mind. It is not a rule that you need to apologize when you hit the net. That's for sure. It's also not a rule that you cannot celebrate after hitting the net. So ultimately, the choice is yours. We're just sharing our opinions, our experience with you. Another pickleball etiquette point is not calling the score in rec play. Let's talk about rec playoffs and tournament play. So not calling the score before you serve. I think a lot of us have been in tournaments where, again, we don't have a ref present. So we'll talk about tournaments first. And where someone is not calling the score before they serve. Back when I first started playing, I actually went and played a tournament with my other brother. And I may have shared this story before, but it frustrated me so bad. I knew we were better than the other team, but there was no ref present, and the guy on the opposite team refused to call the score before he was serving, and I let it get to me, and so I let it bother me, and I got worked up before I finally blew up and said, "You have to call the score before you serve." But it didn't help me at all, because by that point I was beyond focusing on playing, and I was so focused on him calling the serve that we didn't fare well in that one. So yes, you should call the serve, or you should call the score before the serve in rec play, so everyone knows we're on the same page. Let's keep it a fair playing field. You should call the score before the serve in tournament play, because that is a rule, and it does make it fair for everybody. Don't try to get in somebody's head. If you want to beat them in a fair way. But at the same time, if you're just playing, for friends and nobody's worried about it and you're just having a good time, I mean, good for you. But I would err on the side of calling the score before you serve. At least that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, 100%. You have to call the score, whether you're playing in rec play, in my opinion, whether you're playing in rec play or tournament play, even if it is just with friends. Because for me, if I'm going to have fun playing pickleball with friends, we're going to be keeping score. It's not just going to be hitting back and forth. That's no fun for me. Same with drilling. If I'm drilling, I'll start out by hitting back and forth to warm up, but then it's like we go into a cooperative competitive game, and then we go into a competitive game with drilling, so that it's similar to playing in a tournament or playing in a rec game, so that I don't get into a tournament and I'm like, oh, well, when I was practicing, I didn't feel any pressure. It's like you start feeling pressure when you're keeping score, and it just makes it so much more fun. But I know there's different personalities out there that don't care at all about competitiveness, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And those are probably people that aren't going to be playing in tournaments anyway, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, for 100%, you have to call the score just because, whether it's in a rec game or in tournament play, just because I'm not ready until you call the score. I might look like I'm ready, but I fully prepare myself once I hear that the score is called, because that is the key for me, that it's like they're going to serve. Whereas if they don't call the score at all, and it might look like I'm ready, I'm just waiting for them to call the score, and then they serve, I'm going to be late on that return. And then instead of getting pissed off, I'll just hit the ball back and say, reserve, you have to call the score so that I know that you're serving. And that's regardless of if I'm playing in a tournament or if I'm playing in rec play. So, same opinion, I think.
Yeah. So to clarify that though, there's two reasons that you need to call the serve. Well, we could call it three. One, it's a rule. Okay, yeah. So that's the first reason. Second reason would be, just like Austin said, it makes the other person, that way everyone's on the same page and ready at the same time. You know that the ball is coming because the serve or the score has been called. So you call the score because it's a rule. You call the score so that everyone's ready. And then number three, you call the score to make sure it's the right score and everybody's on the same page. So what's your opinion, Os, if someone calls the wrong score? I know in PPA it's one rule, and I think APP it's a different rule. I'm not positive on that, but I'm pretty sure in one you can say something right away. In the other, you have to wait until after the point to say something, so you don't get called on a fault for like stopping mid-point saying that the score was wrong. But what is your opinion on calling the wrong score? Should you stop play and call it out, or call them out right away, or what do you think?
Yeah, my opinion is my personality, it doesn't bother me at the fact that they call the wrong score at all. I'll go through an entire first half of a rec game with them saying that we have 2 points when really we have 3 points, because I know the score that we have. So as soon as we get that side out, then I'll just let them know, hey, we actually have this much. That's why I'm on this side. Which I want to teach you guys really quick. Just comes to mind how to know what the score is, or at least you can get pretty dang close to what the score is based off of where you started playing. So this is really hard to explain, and it goes right over people's heads the first time that they hear it, so you'll probably want to rewind this a couple of times, but I'll try to teach it as basic as possible. Whoever starts on the even side of the court,
or the right side,
even side or right side, and then whoever starts on the left side or odd side, right?
Yeah.
Is that right? So whoever starts on the even side of the court, their score will always be even on the even side. So if it is 0 to 25, they will be even. If the score is 0, they'll be serving from that right side. If their score is 2, they'll be serving from the right side. Now, if that person who started on the even side score is 3, 5, 9, whatever it is, if it's odd, they'll always be serving from the odd side. So that's a really good way to know. Where it gets tricky is the person that starts on the odd side, their score will always be the total opposite. So you'll know whoever started on the odd side, if they are serving from the odd side or they're returning from the odd side, your guys' score will be even. If they're serving or returning from the even side, your guys' score will be odd. So it's the total opposite. So just remember, the easiest way to remember is if you start on the even side, your score will always be even on the even side, and your score will always be odd on the odd side. And then it's vice versa for the other person. So hopefully that's not too confusing. I know when I first heard it, I didn't understand. So just listen to that a couple of times and you guys will get it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it is pretty basic, though, if you can break it down that way. The first time I heard it, I was also confused. I guess I'm just not smart enough. to figure it out the first time, but then the second time I heard it, it made more sense. So if you're on the right side, your score will be even. If you're on the left side or serving from the left side, your score will be odd, serving or receiving. Just to make it more confusing for everybody.
So long as you started on the even side, that's true.
Right.
Opposite
Yes.
if you started on the odd side. Just want to clarify that so it's not confusing.
Yeah. Correct. If you started on the left side, then the exact opposite. Calling an out ball from the opposite sideline. So let me explain first what I'm talking about. I've seen this in professional play. I've seen this in 5-0 play. I've seen this in 3-0 play. But you're playing doubles, okay? Well, you could be playing singles too. Let's focus on doubles. You are down the line and somebody hits a ball down the line next to you. Let's say I'm playing on the left side and the opponent directly across from me hits a ball down the left side sideline. That is my call to make on whether that ball is in or out, because I can see the sideline and I can see whether that ball is truly in or out. So it's not like a tennis ball where the ball will compact, or what's the word I'm looking for, us?
Compress.
Compress. It's not like the ball will compress so that even if it is slightly out, the ball compresses and a part of it touches the line. It's either in or out, so it's slightly easier to call. But that would be my call. So what I'm against and what I'm talking about is calling that is my partner calling that ball, because my partner cannot see that ball as clearly as I can see it. They're looking at the ball from a different angle from the side, and they can't see if the ball is this far away from the sideline or that far away from the sideline from that distance, especially if they're farther over there. So I think if my partner makes that call in or out, it's not really justified, in my opinion. I think it needs to be called by me. Technically, my partner has the right to call it. We have the right to call our own balls on our own side of the net. We just can't call the balls on the opposite side of the net. But someone came out with a video recently, actually on the Tennis Sucks pod, and he explained how, now this isn't in real time, but he explained how you can kind of see, my partner would be able to see that angle, but that's in a review setting. That's when it's in slow motion and the camera shows whether there's a sliver of line or not. But as a general rule, and again, this is just my opinion, I think only the person that's on the line should be able to make that call. Anyone, if it's a close call, anyone that's over here, their partner that's over on the other side, shouldn't. I don't know if Austin has a differing opinion, but let's see.
So what's your opinion on, if, let's say I serve a ball, what player should call that serve? The returner? If I serve a ball and I maybe hit it long or it's close to the line, but long, not wide, I serve the ball, who should call that ball? The person behind it or their partner?
Partner every time, because I think the partner is the one that has the angle on the line, so they're able to see directly down the line. Whereas the person that's returning the serve, the line is in front of them, so it's slightly harder to tell the difference. So I do think that the partner needs to call that one also, with the same logic that they're the ones that can see down the line, whether it's the sideline or whether it's the baseline. Whoever can see down the line should be making that call.
So that partner, if we think about if we're returning, that partner's at the net or they're at the kitchen line, right?
Oh, that's true.
So
they're up right there.
So why would that be there? So you're thinking if they're standing back.
I'm thinking if they're both back.
Oh, say that again.
I'm thinking if they're both back. So maybe if we are serving and someone returns the ball, I think if that ball is returned deep to me, it's my partner that needs to make that call. So I said that backwards. You're right. And then if I'm the one receiving the serve and the ball is long, then that should be me that's making that call. Technically, my partner can't see it as well. If that ball is wide towards the inside, I think that could be my partner's call.
Okay.
I think we're making this super complicated, but I should have brought a little drawing board to do it. But what's your opinion?
So I'm actually totally opposite, 100%.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's why I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding correctly. So yeah, I think it's 100% the partner's call, because we'll have to attach that. I've seen so many videos on it, but if you put a ball on the line, or if you watch a video of a ball from different angles, it looks like it might be in when you're looking directly down the line, because it's like hanging over. But when you come over and you look at it from this angle where your partner would be, you can see the green. Let's say the court's blue and then there's a white line. You can see a gap of green in there from that partner's viewpoint. And one of my pet peeves is when the person returning, unless it's singles because you have no other option, is when the person returning, I hit a serve and I hit it deep, right? Maybe it's slightly out, maybe it's on the line, and they call it out and then they say, I have the best angle of that. I don't think that you have the best angle at all. I think you have the opposite of the best angle, because you're totally behind it. You can't see the green on the other side of that ball. All that you can see, since it's so close, is line or maybe even blue. So it's just really more so of a guess until you get a ton of experience. And it tells me the level of the player that I'm playing against if they tell me after they made the call, and this happened the other day, is they said, I have the best angle on that. I'm like, you actually have the absolute worst angle on that ball because you're behind it. Your partner has the best angle on that ball, and the partner thought it was in, but we gave him the point anyway just because it was all fun and games, you know. But the partner thought it was in, and they were like, ooh, is the sound that they made when it happened. And I was like, it was in, right? And they were like, yeah. And then the partner said, well, I have the best angle on that ball. So I think you have the best angle if you are standing from the side. Whereas in tennis, I do think it's opposite, because that ball compresses. If you're looking directly down the line, since the ball compresses, you're correct that it is in if you're looking directly down the line. So kind of funny, but I guess we are total opposites.
Yeah. Yeah, so 2 points to make there. One, that's correct, because I saw that video recently of him showing where you can see the sliver of the ball and where you can't. And then the other point, what was I going to make there? Oh, I wanted to point out what the rule is if you and your partner disagree. A lot of you may know this, a lot of you may not. So if you call a ball in on your side, but your partner calls it out, then that call goes in favor of the opposite team. So whatever the scenario is, if you call a ball out but your partner says it's in, or vice versa, if you guys are not on the same page, then the opposite team gets the point or the side out, or whatever the situation is. And you can't, part of that rule, this might be opinionated, I don't know, we'd have to read the rule book, but I think part of that rule is you can't say it's out and your partner say it's in the beginning, and then change your mind and say, no, yeah, I agree with my partner. Yeah, he said it was in. Even though you said it out, it's like, no, whatever your first call was, that was the call. And if you guys are on the opposite page, it's the other point's ball. It's the other it's the other team's ball. Whether this is in rec play or in tournament play, that belongs to the other team.
Yeah, that's not opinion. That's absolutely factual. You can't change your call after. So if one says in, one says out, you can all of a sudden be like, oh, he said it was out, so I agree with him. And then be a cheater like that. Doesn't work. It's automatically, that is in the rule book. You can't change your call.
So one interesting point with that is I've noticed in pro play, they have the review process. And so someone will challenge a call, and then the refs can go back and look at the camera, which usually they're only 50% right anyway when they do it. Oof. But it seems like sometimes in that situation they do change their mind in order to give the opponent the benefit of the doubt. So say the ball lands in and you call it in, and you call it out, and so they want to challenge the call. or I'm saying that backwards. Say the ball lands out, whichever the situation is, in or out. If the opposite team wants to change their mind in that situation so that it can be reviewed and your team is able to challenge it, okay, this is when it happens. So ignore all that. So when it gets when it gets challenged, the call gets challenged, say the opposing team is out of challenges and it's like game point or something like that, and they don't have a challenge to give, and so you would win the game, but you want to give them a chance. If it was a close ball, you called it out, but you want to give them a chance to challenge it, you can use your own challenge against your own call. So I guess that's technically not going against the rule because you're sticking with your original call of out, but then you're also challenging your own personal out call if there is a chance that it's in, so that they get an opportunity to continue playing. So you'd have to be a really nice person to do that, but I have seen it happen a couple times.
Don't do that. If you're playing pro, don't do that. Yeah. I'm against that fully. I think that it does look kind, but it's like if you're very confident in your call, obviously you would do it just because you're going to get the challenge back anyway. But yeah, I understand what you're saying fully now. So
yeah, and if you're not confident in your call, maybe do that. But if you're confident with it, then go ahead. So this is a little bit shorter podcast, but this is Etiquette episode 1. We'll get you Etiquette part 2 next week, so stick around for that. And we'll be talking about completely different subjects, but still having to do with pickleball etiquette. We'll talk our opinions just like we did today, and we'll try to help you out so that when you're in these situations, you can navigate through them in a better way rather than trying to guess at it. So we appreciate you being here, and you have anything else, Oz?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, make sure that you guys comment your opinions. Whether you're watching on YouTube, you can also comment on Spotify now, right? Mm-hmm. They have like a Q&A there thing, which is really cool. Maybe on Apple Podcasts or no?
Yeah, there's a place to comment on there too, but Spotify is making it more a big deal lately, so you can comment on there too.
Yeah, so comment. I want to hear your guys' opinions, even if they're absolutely horrible opinions. I want to hear them, and we'll give you guys the benefit of the doubt. Maybe we can have a discussion about it, because I think that's interesting. Like me and Spencer talking together, I had a strong opinion on something even today that he brought up, and then it kind of swayed me the other way quite a bit after he shared his opinion. So yeah, it'd be interesting to hear you guys' opinions. We appreciate you guys being here, and we will see you guys next week for Etiquette Part 2.